Okay, we are going to finish 1.6, part A. So this is dealing with rational exponents. So we already talked about this, but we're actually solving equations that have rational exponents. So we need to remember or recall that a to the m over n, what that actually means. It means the nth root of a raised to the m power. So let's say we have an equation that we need to solve that looks like this. That looks pretty ugly. So what we need to do is we need to convert this to a radical exponent. So it'd be 3 on the outside, and then x to the 3/4 minus 6 equals 0. So let's see if we can solve this without really discussing it at all. What would we need to do? Add 6 to both sides. So we have 3x to the 3/4 equals 6. Then what would we do? 5 by 3. So x to the 3/4 equals 2. And then what do you think we should do to get rid of the 3/4? By the reciprocal, we're going to multiply the exponent. But yeah, you're right. We're going to multiply both exponents. So it's like this. We're going to raise this to the reciprocal of 4/3. So we're going to do this to the 4/3. Because if you do the reciprocal, this changes to 1. So that's x to the first power, which is just x. And then we can do 2 to the 4/3. 2 raised to the 4/3. Which is not very pretty, so we're not going to be able to do that. We're going to have to rewrite it a different way. We're going to write it with the radical. So how could this be written as a radical? What goes in the, that's the 3. 2 to the 4th. Can we simplify that further? What is 2 to the 4th? 16? Okay, so that's all we can do. We can write it as any one of these answers. I think the simplest version would be either this one or this one. So I'll have to look at Pearson and see which way they want you to write it. Do they want you to write it as a radical or as a number with a rational exponent? Okay, so let's write the steps down that we did. So it's a rational exponent, which can be changed to a radical equation. So our first step was to isolate the radical. But whenever we have the radical, we want to write it as a fraction exponent. So once you isolate it, then you can raise both sides of the equation by the reciprocal of the rational exponent. Okay, so things that we need to know. If M, well, let's write down what M is. Sorry. Let me erase that. Because it's going to be different if our exponent is even or odd. So we have, say, x to the m over n is going to equal some value k. So if m is even, then I'm going to do if m is odd. If m is even, then we'll have, when we raise our m over n to the n over m, we are only going to get, or we're going to get two answers, actually, a positive and a negative answer. And then if m is odd, when we do that, we're only going to get one solution. So on this one, x is going to be positive, negative, k, n over m. And on this one, it's just going to be positive, n over m. Just one answer. So on that first example, m was, what was m? M equals 3, right? Because it's m over n. So that means we are going to have one solution, which was that. Which the way the textbook reads is actually x equals 2 to the 4/3. That's how they're going to want it written. How are they going to want it wrote? I don't know what it's. So there's just that one solution. And then we also need to check our solution. So since we already did this, let's go ahead and check our solution. So we are going to do 3 times, 3 times. Do y'all know how to get this in the calculator? Yeah, math. And number 5. And then you put in 4. And then our x is 2 raised to the 4/3. And we want it raised to the 3rd. Then minus 6. So then that actually checks out just our one solution. So we're done at that point. Okay, I'm going to put a number 3 here because I forgot it. Down at the bottom with the steps. 3. Check your solutions, and original equation. Okay, so that was our first example. Example 1 up there. So we'll go on to example 2. So this is x to the 2/3 minus 3/4 equals -1/2. What do y'all think we should do? We have these fractions as our terms in there. What do you think we should do? What could we do? I'm teaching this in Algebra 1 right now. Clearing out fractions. So instead of having these fractions, we can clear them out by multiplying by your common denominator. Yeah, so we'd multiply both sides by 4. So this would leave me with 4x to the 2/3. And then minus 3 equals -2. Now we would isolate the rational exponent. So plus 3 on both sides. 4x to the 2/3 equals 1. Divide by 4. So x to the 2/3 equals 1/4. And then we are going to do the reciprocal so we can get rid of it. So 3/2, 3/2. So x equals, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. So 1/4 raised to the fraction 3/2, 1/8. But one thing we have to check is what our m was in the beginning. What was our m? m over n. So m was 2. So what does that mean about our solutions? It's even. So we'll have 2 solutions. So we need to put plus negative, plus negative. And then we just need to check our answer. Use the calculator. So x, let's do it with 1/8. 1/8 raised to the 2/3. Make sure you arrow over to get it to come down. Minus 3/4. Negative 1/2, and that's what it's supposed to be, negative 1/2. So we can write our solution set as just 1/8, or we can write it as negative 1/8, positive 1/8. Okay, I think that might be all. So I'm going to go ahead and get y'all to go ahead and start on your assignment. And if there's something that we run into, we'll go over those problems together. But it's just 1.6 part A. We'll finish part B on Thursday.